Right, so it's time to check out what is happening in courts, and it's been an exciting trip since last week. I saw Murtala yesterday. It was exciting to see him at the courts with regards to the Koo Fori incident. Murtala, good morning.
Joshua Kojo, sir. Good
Koo
morning.
Fori appeared in court dripping in green.
I know, right? When we posted a video
Yes.
on our social media platforms, when he was arriving in court, there were a lot of people who were raising comments. Why is he in shorts? Why is he wearing? Is it a court? The place to go and show your legs and all. I was like, hey, that roadside, a lot of issues there. So yesterday, yes, you noticed that I mentioned yesterday that that case obviously was coming up at the Dansoman circuit court, and rightly so. Yesterday, Koo Fori of Efira fame. Yesterday, I asked you about your favorite character. So it wasn't a movie. We were not staging Efira, any of the series yet, or any of the episode. No, yesterday was a real action at the court. So what we saw last week Friday when Koo Fori was in handcuffs was as a result of an order given by the court. And the order was that a bench warrant was issued for his arrest because when the summons was served on him, he did not show up in court. So that forced the court to issue a bench warrant, which we saw him and all of that. So yesterday, the first thing that happened in court, and as you can see on your screens, this was when he was leaving the premises of the court yesterday, moments after all that transpired. So the first thing that happened yesterday was that the bench warrant was rescinded by the courts because now he has showed up in court. Then the second leg was for the charge, or all things on the charge sheet be made known to him. In fact, it was only one count of defrauding by false pretenses and an allegation of some $50,000 alleged fraud. And when the matter happened, before his plea will be taken, his lawyer, Derek Abuaji Asamoah, made a point that no, they have an objection to raise about the jurisdiction of the court. Then you have to then break down or argue, submit why you think that his plea will not be taken. But I realized that the argument that counsel want to move was not in relation to challenging the jurisdiction of the court. He has an issue with the sum or the amount in question, $50,000. He made the point that as we speak, my client do not owe. So he's actually at sea why his client or Koo Fori will be arraigned in court in relation to $50,000 and all of that. But the court is saying that. But that is not an objection. That is not an argument to challenge the jurisdiction of the court. Once that is not so, the court as it's sitting here cannot make that determination whether the point that you are making, it's rightly so or not, unless they go into the matter or the matter itself before that will come up. So his plea was taken, which he pleaded not guilty. Then, as practice, the brief fact was read in open court. Then after, his lawyers, like I mentioned, Derek Abuaji Asamoah, made an application for bail. And one of the elements of bail is that you should be able to convince the court that your client has a fixed place of abode. He has persons of substantial means to stand as surety. Now, of course, not a flight risk. And the fact that anytime he's needed in court, he will show up. So he made that beautiful submission. Prosecution, fortunately for them, did not oppose to the request, to the grant of bail. So that one was left in the hands of her Anna Halima El Alawa Abdul Basit to make a determination. The determination was to the effect that Koo Fori is granted bail in a sum of 320,000 Ghana cedis with 3 sureties. The sureties, the court said, all of them must be justified. He has to report to the case investigator every Monday until the final determination of the case. His passport ought to also be submitted to the registrar of the court and all of that. So that's how it ended for Koo Fori yesterday at the Dansoman circuit court. The court ordered or directed prosecution to file their processes and all of that. But like I mentioned earlier, lawyer for Koo Fori had a point to make about the fact that his client has fully paid the $50,000 and wondered why he was in court. Let's hear him.
Have been paid in full because Koo Fori took $50,000 to purchase the land for the complainant, and out of the $50,000, at that time when the money came, it was 270,000 Ghana cedis, and so he used 160,000 Ghana cedis to purchase the land. As at that time, the exchange rate was 5.5, and so the amount he used was $30,000. And apart from that, he paid $5,000 to the complainant. Now the issue in contention is the size of the land and the amount left to be paid to the complainant. And so he paid $5,000 to the complainant, and the amount left was $15,000. And the police is charging him for $50,000, of which he has paid the amount in full. And so I don't see why the police, knowing very well that the amount has been paid, and you are still charging the person for the figure that has been used to procure the land for the complainant. That is our case. Okay. By any event, he has been granted bail, so that is all.
He's been granted bail. That is all. That's the most important thing. Yeah. So that's counsel over there. Yesterday, he wasn't happy at all moments after the prosecution made that claim. But the matter will be delved into, and then we'll be following that keenly. So that's what happened yesterday at the Dansoman Circuit Court. Interesting. Yeah.
And then while that was happening, there was a report, an issue from the United States of America. You know, I remember when we were told that Ken Agyapong had to pay $18 million. We were like, woo! Anas will become a very rich man. Now, what am I hearing? $500?
Anas is already a rich man. Yes, you heard right. So yesterday, I remember upon reading the statement from Anas, I was like, was he a mistake that he didn't add the K? Or there was a mistake that somewhere...
I mean, $500 is...
Then, it does, so for those who remember this thing, we have shown you this video before. So this was the court in New Jersey. The court, Exos Court, Superior Court in New Jersey, United States of America, where Anas and then Ken Agyapong appeared before the judge in fact, the jury delivered that decision and held that Ken Agyapong is liable for defamation, for which reason damages in the sum of $18 million was awarded against him in favor of Anas. Then we realized that few hours or days later, we saw a statement from Ken Agyapong to the effect that they were going to challenge that decision because they felt that the jury's arrival, the jury's decision was excessive in relation to what was happening. So he went and challenged that. Then, fast forward, yesterday, we saw a statement from Anas. So, director, let's see the statement that Anas showed. Great. So, the statement on your screens is what Anas yesterday released. And pay attention to the words in it. Very interesting. Look at the heading. In fact, Tiger IPI, that's the letterhead of this statement. And it was released on May 11, 2025. And it said, press release. Our victory is in the judgments and not the award. Our victory is in the judgments and not the award. And he will explain why he are making that particular assertion. He said, as Ghanaians may recall, a couple of weeks ago, an American jury found Ken Agyapong guilty of maliciously defaming my character. Consequent to the finding by the jury, an amount of $18 million was awarded in my favor against Ken Agyapong. Following the award, Ken Agyapong filed a motion for reduction, asking the judge to reduce the amount awarded against him. Thus, inherent in his motion, Ken Agyapong admitted to having maliciously defamed me. So that is the point that he's saying that at all material times, Ken Agyapong admitted of defaming him as by the decision of the jury earlier. And then it moves on to say, today, that was on the 11th of May, the trial judge granted Ken Agyapong's motion for reduction of the sum and reduced the initial award to $500. And that was the figure that we saw and we were all looking at. You compare 500 to $18 million, it doesn't tally. It raises a lot of questions. Right? But you believe it because it's coming from an us. But listen to what follows. This means that while the judge held that Ken Agyapong had defamed me in his reasoning, the award against Ken Agyapong by the jury was excessive. So now he's agreeing that it was excessive in nature. The 18 million was excessive in nature. So then why not 800?
1,008.
Yes, he said, my avenue for redemption accrued to me. But he said, many avenues for redemption accrued to me. But it is important to state that, as I previously did, that this fight has not been about money or about the money, but rather the fight for the truth and justice. So that's how come he worded the heading as you can see on your screen. Then he went on to say, I am happy that not a single allegation was proven against me in court when Ken Agyapong was given full opportunity to substantiate. I will continue in my relentless fight against corruption, and in doing that, continue to name, shame, and jail. And this one was signed by Tiger IPI. So that was the decision upon Ken Agyapong's request to the court to reduce that one. But Joshua, having followed cases in court, one of the things that I have gathered or have learned is that once somebody made a case of defamation against you and the court agrees with that request, whatever follows is supposed to be a punishment for you so that it serves as a deterrent for the future.
Exactly.
And for other like-minded people who may have that particular mindset of trying to do something like that. So what is $500 to Kennedy or Agyapong?
I've seen a post that suggests that, he will even make it 5,000.
You just made a post. So let's watch that particular point that Joshua was talking about.
Maybe we have to give an last 5,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. He said what? Maybe
we have to give an last 5K.
5K.
Oh.
But now he's saying that it's not about the money. It's not about the point that, yes, it is established that you have defamed me. So that is what is happening in relation to the announced Ken Agyapong's fight in the UK, in fact, USA courts. The point now is that the 18 million, I don't want to use the term slashed down significantly.
That's what
but
it
that's
is,
what
slashed down.
It was
It's rubbed down. So we all know that Kennedy will have to pay.
Yes, now Kennedy will have to pay, and that one is comfortable
That
to
one
pay. He said he will
won't
even
cover
make,
legal fees.
you see the whole thing and all of that. He said we'll make it 5,000K.
Anyways,
Maybe
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens there.
But let's come back from the US. Let's talk about Charles Bisu and then the Office of the Special Prosecutor. There's been some banter here and there.
Yeah, so you note that quite recently, the High Court sat, and when the court was conducting proceedings, the OSP's prosecutors charged Charles Bisu, and he pleaded not guilty. He was granted bail, and as we speak, he's been able to satisfy all the bail conditions. Now, he has the intention to try. One of the conditions that is attached to the bail sum is that you deposit your passport to the registry of the court, and you notify the court anytime you ought to travel, you want to travel outside. But then, the decision to release the passport is also based on the discretion of the judge. The judge has been convinced that, yes, your passport ought to be released for you, and the reason you want to travel outside has some significance. Now, he appeared before the court, argued that out yesterday for the release of his passport to be able to travel for some other activities elsewhere. But it dawned on the court that at the time that the action he's expected to happen or to take part in was booked, he has already filed the bail application, the request already. So it means like, more like you wanted to travel, the event in which it's even, your process is even, is ahead of your request. So it means that the court was not properly convinced that releasing the passport at that particular point in time is something that the court will have to exercise discretion in favor. So yesterday, that request to have his passport released so that he can travel out of the country did not happen. So the court denied. Justice Comfort Asiame declined that one. So that is in relation to the latest on Kennedy OSP and then Charles Bishop. So sometime May 29, they'll be back in court in relation to that case.
Interesting. So now, what are we to expect today?
Guess what? The big one.
Kwabena Dubois.
Kwabena Dubois, yes. So the 7 working days last today.
Okay.
So the 7 working days that he's been remanded for were last today. So the picture that we all look forward to is to see him being released. But of course, day in and day out, things could change, new things will arise and all of that. So at the last court sitting, it was clear to the court that prosecution or the attorney general will need some time to be able to put the witnesses together. We're being told that Kwabena Dubois is interfering with witnesses, tampering with potential witnesses, and so the court remanded him for that number of days. Today is the last day. So Justice John Eugene Nyadu Nyante is expected to make further directions today when the parties appear before the court. But what we do not know is whether the AG will make another case for the remand warrant to be renewed or not. But at the last court sitting, what became clear was that today he will be released, but will be in court to see what will become of whatever happened at the last court sitting and what will take place today.
And what else are we supposed to look forward to?
And then Ahmed Swali. Yes.
We understand that one person
Yes. Daniel Usukrantin, who was arrested, and he's on two provisional count. The duplicate case docket, we are told, will be before the AG's office for advice and all of that. 2 counts, abetment to murder, and of course murder. One of the things that he was alleged to have done is that he sold pictures of Ahmed Swali to Ken Agyapong, and that led a few days later he was murdered. So that particular action, the police think that he ought to assist them and all of that. So that's how come he's on those 2 charges or counts in relation to that. So today he also appeared before the Medina District Court. So we'll be following through all this, and then tomorrow or newsroom will bring you updates on that. So that's all we have for you.
You clearly have your hands full, Murtala. And so we'll leave you to get to it. But thank you so much for
updating
us on Court Today. So that's Murtala Inusah with Court Today.